Welcome to the 60th episode of the infamous Todd Show. I know I seem ridiculous as I sit here drinking my cold brew jasmine tea with a stainless steel straw. But I'm trying to make a point in today's episode, so please bear with me. Here, let me sit that down. It started on June 9th, 2018 when I bought that straw. At that time, a turtle went viral on Facebook. Well, actually, the video was posted on YouTube on August 10th of 2015. It just took that long to get viral. In the 8-minute video, a field biologist and her researchers were off the waters in Costa Rica when they encountered an endangered olive ridley sea turtle with appeared to be a parasitic worm stuck in its nose, coming out of its nose. When they examined the worm, it turned out to be a plastic straw passing through the turtle's nasal cavity and into its throat. Now, don't get me wrong. I knew as humans, we are pigs and parasites destroying the earth. There is zero evidence showing humans will leave the earth greater than when we found it. Zero. This includes me. Well, especially me. Few days past this home without a package being delivered. Mail in the mailbox, garbage in the can, brand new Jeep in the garage, a house packed with crap that used not only the earth's resources, but much of it unable to be returned to the soil as a benefit. Not only in my lifetime, but even in the cycle of human existence. Don't get me wrong, in time everything breaks down, but when it becomes to the earth as a benefit is not guaranteed. It's nearly impossible in America to go through life without interacting with plastic. 100% of us listening to this show right now are listening through plastic devices. Glance around you. There's plastic everywhere. And Earth has zero plans to reduce the amount that we can create. In fact, we have doubled the amount we use recently of all the plastic that we consume. The production of synthetic polymers globally is dominated by the polyolefins, the polyethylenes, the polypropylene. Those are the big three plastics. Now, don't start blanking me out and turning me off because you think I'm about to become another one of your dreaded science teachers. The point is, not all plastics are created equally. And to explain the difference will end my video to most people. For this discussion, let's just say we use too many of the bad plastics. Like National Geographic's once wrote, plastics are versatile, pliable, durable, cheap to produce. It is a life-saving miracle product and the scourge of the earth. That's the reason I began this video by saying I am ridiculous. I am going to sit here drinking through my reusable stainless straw in a reusable stainless steel cup that to this day I force fast food restaurants and theaters to accept, while still surrounding my life in bad plastics and unacceptable behavior of me supposing to be the steward of the planet. I was that 300-pound man eating burgers and large fries while drinking a diet Dr. Pepper. It's easy to feel less guilty about something when you feel like you took a little control of your life, often of something insignificant to others. Sure, I was eating bad, but adding all that sugar in the soda on top of it, to me, was too much. and I sadly applied that rule to my life. I still apply that rule to my life. In fact, I'm going to ask you in today's show to apply that rule to your life. And I I'm going to admit something to you using my outside voice. I wish I could be one of those tree-hugging liberals that go around the world saving the planet from destruction. I don't have that kind of focus in my life. That's me being honest with you. So I'm hoping that some of you will just at least give me a moment of your time in today's show. For me to save the world? Save the world? Hell, I can barely save the 216 feet of cubic square space surrounding my body. I have the desire to be Earth's better steward, but I confess I don't have the willpower. So instead, I reach for the baby steps. Today is me asking you to at least try to visualize what you can do to make a difference. My stainless steel straw isn't going to change a thing. In the scheme of things, in the scheme of the 18 billion pounds of plastic waste flowing into the oceans from the coastal regions, it will not make a difference. It will not make a dent in the 500 million straws that we use daily. 500 million straws we use daily. If you're watching this show on YouTube instead of listening to if you wonder why I keep glancing up, over, back and forth, I have microphones right here, and they always catch my attention because they're closer to me. They're out of the view of the camera. They're out of the view of the camera, but they practically cross my eyes. Okay, so by using my stainless steel straw, I reduce my straw usage by about 500 straws a year. And you know what? I stick them in my Michael's cups. He never made that pledge, but if I can make a difference, no matter how small, it's better than doing nothing at all and assuming that it will all come out in the wash. For you millennials, it all coming out in the wash is an idiom. Look it up. But me making even the tiniest change in my life is a pinhole of light in a pitch black room. And enough pinholes eventually light up a room. I want to create more pinholes in my life because I know that recycling in America is not cutting it. Everyone assumes the buckets that we fill of recycled goods are recycled, when less than 4.4% of our recyclables will be recycled. 0 of my straws were ever recycled. My plastic fountain drinks will not be recycled. My Amazon packaging and none of the containers my food is packaged in will most likely never be recycled. We lie to ourselves when we fill the bin under some illusion that a recycling logo on the product ensures its fate. We are shocked when we learn that we're not supposed to be placing in pizza boxes and egg cartons and aluminum foil and aerosol cans and styrofoam packaging into the recycling bins. I will still cram the blue recycling container to the brim each week. If they can use 4.4 of it, it's better than none. It's better than 0. I'm not expecting rainbows for my effort. But once again, pinholes in the darkness. I am not going to just cram everything in it and let them decide on their end. That is not stewardship. That's just, in fact, that's beyond lazy. It's actually mean and counterproductive because now I'm dumping all my responsibilities on others, as if recycling people hired a special person just to handle the infamous Todd's issues. And let me first be the first person to say, I have issues. Packaging makes up a quarter of all the trash that goes to the U.S. landfills. Don't believe me? Go look inside most dumpsters. Go look inside your own trash. I often believe my trash is only packaging. I never realized how much of it was packaging until I started writing this episode. We have become a world obsessed with packaging. United States isn't even the main creator of plastics, but is massive on consumption. Most of our items are even packaged, and then we place them in larger packages, and then we buy them. So then they take that package within a package, and then we take those two packages and we put it into a box, which is now a package, or maybe a bag, or perhaps another plastic bag, to finally bring it to our home. Now that doesn't include that when the retailer bought the item in the first place, it probably came in a case, which is even a larger package. We show little effort in trying to save ourselves. Plastic recycling in Europe is 30%. China, we make fun of them for being poor and all that stuff. Their recycling is 25%. The United States now recycles just 4.4% of its plastic trash. And that's down from a high of a pathetic 9% just a few years ago. This coming from a country that loves to brag on how advanced we are as society. Us Americans run around shouting about climate change while we are taking no effective path in the past 10 years to even save us from destroying our own environment. Think about it. You are 3 times more likely to recycle something in China and Europe than in the United States. We've given up as a nation. Plastics, just like the destruction of infrastructure, the debt of the nation, the collapse of civil discourse, we are dumping once again on our children, and then our grandchildren, and then our great-grandchildren. We're doing that. It's easy. They've become the easy target. You know what? Because they've been unable to convince us that their lives should matter as much as their own. Each of us thinking the problem belongs to someone else. For I carry no burden to change it. Think I'm lying? How much time do you spend each day, not each week, not each month, how much time do you spend each day setting your children and grandchildren, all of them, up for success? I'm guilty too. I'm not trying to preach down upon an egg carton. I'm not trying to do a sermon here. I'm confessing my crimes to future generations, to you, hoping that along the line, some of you might say, me too, Todd, me too. You don't have children? Well, there's got to be somebody inside your life that's younger than yourself that you like. If there's nobody in your life that matters to you more than your own generation, then none of this show is going to make any sense to you, because you already feel you are owed and owe nothing back. Most likely, if you're one of those people, you probably already turned the show off by now. I can't help them. I will never be able to inspire them. I can't, because I don't understand them. Did you know my grandparents' generation set my parents and I up for success until the day they died? Look at the highway system they created. The beautiful bridges, canals, and the ability for most homes to have access not only to fresh water, but electric too. I can't build you, me personally, I can't build you infrastructure, but I can at least try to reduce the problems I add to the world. Kroger is phasing out plastic bags from all their various chains. It was in there. The company calculated that they handed out 6 billion plastic bags a year. That's equivalent to 32 tons of plastic. That's enough to fill over 3,000 moving trucks jammed with bags. And that's just Kroger, with 2,700 of the 3.8 million retail establishments in the United States. You don't have to shop at Kroger to ask for paper bags. Start asking, especially if you know they don't have paper bags. Start asking each time you go to the store if they have paper bags. And when they say no, ask why. Believe me, enough people putting them on the spot is notice. Feel free to go on their social media page and ask them why they don't have paper bags. You don't have to shop at Kroger to use reusable bags. I hope that you're better at remembering to bring them inside the store than Michael and me. I seem to always forget them. Oh yes, and those damn coupons. Every year, there's 102.1 billion plastic bags used just by Americans. Too many people look at a package and see a number surrounded by a recycling logo and assume the logo means it's recyclable. Well, technically anything is recyclable. I can break up everything and dump it in the ground and call it filling. Anything's recyclable. This does not mean that your local collector wants everything. All of them have rules. Our collector has a box on the box here for our townhome, and it says that they will take everything with a number 1 through a number 7. Well, they'll take it. Doesn't mean that they're going to recycle it. Some of it's going to end up back at the trash. And it's funny because then you go on their lid and it has an exception to the rule, and you go on their website and the exception to the rule is like 6 times longer. So I went online and I started checking out other cities, most likely the cities that most of you live in, and found out there's no golden rule for me to share. I'm lucky. They come to our townhouse and they pick up our recycling from right in front of my door. Where before I had to go out and I had to search for it, but I still did. Just like creating which pinhole light you wish to inspire, sometimes you need to be patient and you have to learn the best way to be inspirational and productive. If the recycling number on your package is surrounded by the recycling logo, it is just telling you the attributes of recycling. In other words, most websites said, if it has a number 1 or a number 2, it's easy to recycle into new items. If it's a number 3, it has little or no value as recycling. 4 and 5 is good. 6, only if it's clean of any print or other substances, meaning items in the recycling bin haven't contaminated yet. Good luck with that one. Number 7 will most likely be rejected also. See, I never understood how complicated all this was until I started creating the show. Until I made it important for me to make a difference in the world that I plan to leave for my great-grandchildren. For I fear the damage of my lifelong apathy has already hurt my children. I fear that it's already going to hurt my grandchildren. And I don't want to hurt my great-grandchildren. I want to at least make an effort. And I believe that most of you that watch my show share that feeling with me. I don't want you to make the same mistakes as me and wait this long without at least trying. So what I want to do with the show, the show is me once again trying to make another pinhole and another and another. I'm hoping to expand my knowledge, to learn what I was doing wrong, to make it right, without having to completely gut my life. For I knew that I am too much of a coward to make the grand gesture of sacrifice. Okay, I laugh because I have no clue on how I would ever live off the grid. It is better to throw... Okay, here's a good question. Is it better to throw food waste out in the garbage or dispose of it down the sink in your garbage disposal? Yes, I know the best option for food waste is to compost it. Kind of hard to do when you're living in an apartment or a community restricting such activity. Though I have watched my neighbors in the past walk their composting scraps to a tree or a flower bed in the community. That's them making their pinhole in the darkness. If 30,000 people switched from disposing of food waste in the landfill to using a garbage disposal, the reduction on the global warming potential would be equivalent to a savings of 4.6 million miles driven by an American car. And that's just for 30,000 households. So become one of those households. Pretty cool statistics. And all you had to do is start putting your scraps down the drain. Well, assuming you have a garbage disposal. So if you choose not to compost, please put your foods down the disposal. Here's a warning though. Make sure you use lots of water and dispose them in small amounts, especially if you have a garbage disposal less than 3/4 power, 3/4 horsepower. Many homes have a half horsepower, and often developers and apartment complex builders will only use like 1/3 horsepower. So that means your portions are going to have to be even smaller. Because here's the catch. Most reclamation water districts currently capture 50 to 80% of that methane gas generated from those treatment plants to heat the digesters and the facilities. Wastelands can barely stop the methane gas from escaping into the environment. Needless to say, use it for greater good. Think of every plastic soda bottle, water bottle, juice bottle you have ever used. Did you assume because the label said it's recyclable bottle that the bottle itself is made of recycled plastic too? Turns out even the soda companies do not use recycled goods. Coca-Cola only admits to using 7% of its plastic from recycled materials. And they're the leaders in the field of recycling. Of all the other major beverage packagers, which means the other major beverage packagers use even less. So I need you to know, think of the value of the market if all of those bottlers committed to you tomorrow to bring that number up to 50%. There's a difference between recycling and reuse. If you take a used bottle and recycle them into new bottles, that is recycling. Because the new item they made, once again, is recycled over and over and over again. Right now, most plastic bottles, which I remind you is only 29% are even turned in and recycled, are turned into things like carpet and like polyester and fleece for clothing, mass items that are not recyclable. Their life of purpose ends with that product. Those bottles that are reused, but only create a different item, that it's going to clog up our landfills for 500 years. Most people are clueless on the amount of clothing we are dumping. For some reason, they are all under the assumption that giving it away instead of throwing it away makes an impactful difference. So they keep buying more and more and more and more until every drawer in the dresser is full, every hanger, storage unit, hope chest, attic, garage storage, clothes closets, linen beds, and every shelf. Many people have clothing they have not worn for a year, perhaps a decade, perhaps possibly even since high school. They have shoes they buy, they no longer wear, sitting near linen closets packed with sheets that they haven't put on their bed for years, and probably won't touch their bed for even more years. Now, don't get me wrong. I want you to still call Goodwill or some other charity so you can drop it off, because that at least beats just throwing it straight into the garbage. At least then, it's not recycled, it can be reused. Not the same as recycled, but at least it's reused. Then it's dumped. But here's the sad thing. Here's the sad statistic about that clothes that you're about to donate. Only 1% of 1%. Now picture that. If I took a penny out of $1 and took that penny and chopped that penny into 1% of the penny, so I'd have to chop that penny into 100 pieces. Okay, that's how small it is. That's how much clothing is passed on to the next person. Hardly any of the clothing in the United States makes it through the system. Tell me that number doesn't shock you. I was blown away knowing hardly anything I was donating didn't end up in the dump. It took a mass resort. Think of even a $1 cheap t-shirt. Close your eyes. You could never comprehend every step of the life of creating that simple t-shirt. 80 to 100 billion garments are now manufactured each year. Most people on Earth are lucky if they even own 10. The U.S. apparel market is the largest in the world. No shock for me. Probably no shock for you. I guess this is the hardest part of the conversation I'm trying to have with you. Am I the only person that saw thousands of tons of clothing piled on beaches and tarmacs sent by Americans to countries devastated by disasters? Mountains and mountains of waste. Often now wet and dirty because no infrastructure is ever created after a disaster to, number one, house, number two, organize, number three, store, or four, distribute the clothing being dumped by us on these countries. Think about how much logistics it would take just to do one of those four categories. Needless to say, in a country that right at that particular point is just begging for a bottle of clean water. One of my pinholes is making sure I do not buy things that I won't use and reuse and reuse again. The average person listening to this program today will take none of this any further than this conversation. For me, this is once again must be me hoping to reach even one person enough to either share this message, react on this message, or possibly both. I'm not asking you to overhaul your entire life. I'm not begging you to overturn everything you buy or do. I'm simply asking you to take a positive moment to discover which pinholes of change you can place in your life to bring light into darkness, another ripple upon the pond, for you and me to make a difference for the next generation. Until next Sunday, next Sunday's show of The Infamous Todd, I am The Infamous Todd. Join over 10,000 listeners now that listen either on all the social media platforms, podcast sites, or simply by asking Alexa, Siri, or my Google to play the podcast The Infamous Todd Show. But in the meantime, make it a great day. Bye.